Today is Friday, September 10th. That's right, folks. Tonight I've been waiting for all week. The Brida tasting at Cello Restaurant in Boca Raton. I'll tell you all about that tomorrow. And the What I Drank Yes part of the show here. That's what we got today for you. And we've got a busy day here yesterday. In addition to the Vega Sicilia tasting last night, we did have a couple of suppliers in the store. And first up, we had Jay Vineyards from Sonoma. And Liza, she stopped by earlier in the year also. So it's kind of like deja vu, man. Half these wines I had earlier in the year also. It's like the last 2 days, man. Suppliers bringing in the same wines they brought in earlier in the year. There must be a lot of stuff backing up in the pipeline out there for, 6 months ago to people to still have the same vintage wines in the market, especially wines that are really good. Well, the J Pinot Gris was nice. I like the screw cap, light and refreshing, but the J Vineyard Chardonnay, exceptional from the Russian River Valley. George Bursick is now the winemaker there. George was at Ferrari Carano for years. He was the guy that kind of defined their style of Chardonnay. And this wine, very similar. Some lovely vanilla bean, creme brulee notes to the nose. A nice hand of tropical fruit. A little bit of cinnamon spice. Lovely creamy texture on the nose, on the tongue. And textbook Russian River Chardonnay. Beautiful stuff. We'll have this back in the store next week. A great value at $24. The same thing with the Russian River Pinot Noir. George seems to have an equally adept hand at Pinot, and he takes all the seeds out of this before it ferments. He doesn't want those harsh tannins. I think that adds a little bit of spice to it too, and that's one of the things this wine was kind of missing a little bit of, was spice. It had that lovely black raspberry fruit and cherry fruit on the nose with a hint of that spice and some floral notes, more floral notes than spicy. Very smooth and silky on the tongue, and lovely velvety texture, great purity and great freshness on the finish. This wine will also have in the store next week. It's great. You can find a lot of Pinot Noir in that $25 and under category now that I'll drink. All right, well, the Cuvée 20. This is what Jay's known for, their sparkling wines. They bought the old Piper Sonoma facility, and this is where they call home now, and it's a great tour if you guys are going out to wine country and you want to see a sparkling producer. They do a very nice job there. They do a little pairing with food, and a really nice visit if you want to see a sparkling producer in Sonoma. The Cuvée 20, we got a phenomenal price on, $18 a bottle. Are you kidding me? This one went to $30, went back down. It's been on a roller coaster ride, but we're happy where it's ended. $18 is a really nice price point for a California sparkler. Lots of fresh green apple and lemon citrus fruit to this. A little bit of white flour, a little candied ginger spice, lovely creamy mousse. Maybe a little simple, but very, very has lots of crowd appeal. Very nice. All right, the Rosé, we had a screaming deal on that in February. Unfortunately, not quite as good a deal, but still the same wine. Lovely, fresh raspberry and strawberry fruit. A little bit of red licorice spice to this wine. Again, maybe a little bit on the simple side, but has great balance and great freshness and really nice little value. Still at $24. It was $18 in February. What a steal. All right, and then Jeff decided to throw curveball in there at the end. Chateau De cosse Sauternes. This is the second wine of Riusac, the first time that I've ever had this wine. I love Sauternes, and this wine had a good amount of minerality to it. 07, a great vintage for Sauternes. Maybe still a little young, not quite as showy on that fruit in the nose, but you did get that lovely candied pineapple fruit, a little bit of vanilla cream to the spice to the nose as well, but great structure on the palate with this wine, even for a second wine, and still a little bit of that funk going on the palate, but lovely creamy texture, excellent acidity, a really nice little Sauternes and a nice little value, $25. That is for a half bottle. All right, well, man, sometimes I just pinch myself. People walk in the store, it's like some of the famous producers in the world, and Maro, the next generation Maro Soldera came in next with a good friend Juan Ernesto from Domaine Select. Some great portfolio of somewhat eclectic wines, but fantastic producers. Well, here we go. Here's one of them, Gianfranco Soldera. It's nice to meet the next generation. Maro, a really nice young man, and I think he's going to carry on the tradition here. 100% biodynamically farmed, 23 hectares, beautiful small estate. Hey, when Angelo Gaia went to Montalcino, he wanted to buy this property. They didn't want to sell. So you know what he did? He bought the property next door. Ha! Angelo, you couldn't get Casi Bass and Intestesti, the two great vineyard sites that the Solderas planted. And the first wine we had was a wine called Pegasus. And these guys have had a little bit of issues sometimes, I think, creating brands and things. But when you're that small, you really can make a wine one time, and it doesn't really affect you. Hey, they didn't make a 2005 Brunello de Montalcino. They declassified everything. Here's a great producer in a good year. They probably had some problems. Well, you know what? Gianfranco said, hey, these barrels, you know what? They're this is not going to go another 3 years, which by law you have to keep a wine 5 years before you release it. And he decided to bottle it early and just release a simple Rosso. Well, it's not even a Rosso, it's just called Pegasus, but a really nice little wine. Has a lot of that typical terroir that you get out of Montalcino, a little bit of black tar, some crushed rose petals, some lovely red berry fruit, really nice freshness, and just a really nicely balanced wine. These wines from Soldera have got incredible concentration. We have shown them many times at wine tastings, and they almost always steal a show. All right, the 2002 Cassi Bass was up next. 2002, they made Brunello in 2002. Not many great producers did, but I like this wine. It's very showy, drinking very nice. The 2003 up next. Maybe not quite as nice as the 2002, and 03 was a pretty good vintage in Montalcino. A little hot. You have some drying tannins coming in there on the finish, but these two wines from an outstanding producer. Excellent wines. Maybe a little expensive for what they are, but hey, these are just a tiny production here, and you know, this guy, like I said, whenever you show his wines in a tasting, they're always in the top number 1 or 2 wines in the group. So some great stuff. Thank you very much for stopping by yesterday, guys. Hey, last night we had Vega, Sicilia in the store. Juan Ernesto and Mauro wanted to come for dinner. Unfortunately, it was sold out. Well, we did have one person no show. You know who you are. Okay, well, we started out with a little Burgundy. Well, we got a Louis Latour event next week, so I figured, what the heck? A good friend was coming. I know it likes Burgundy, so I figured we'd try one of his 07s. 07, a great vintage for white. This Chassagne Montrachet, like many wines that I've had from this vintage, is better the second day. It's really showing some nice qualities on the nose today, maybe a little more open, and that's been the case with a lot of these 07s that I've had. The Bruno Colin Premier Cru wines, which we're getting more of in the fall. If you guys like those, $38.25. It's hard to beat that price. It's about the same price as this Latour. Maybe this is just a few dollars cheaper, but a big step up when you get to Premier Cru. All right, that wine was nice, but the wine that we started with actually for the tasting was the Lagar de Cervera Albarino. This wine is owned by the folks at La Rioja Alta, a classic Albarino. It had a lovely chalky kind of minerality to it, lemon, lime, citrus fruit, really clean, very fresh, maybe just a little dose of effervescence in there, leaving the tongue salivating for food. A little salty note to this wine also, and really nice, refreshing, and you know, stood up to the Latour Chassagne Montrachet, even for the people that got both of them. All right, well, we're here for red wines. Ribera del Duero Toro is all about reds. Vega, Sicilia, one of the great producers of Ribera. Hey, they've got a property now called Pintia in Toro. I was very critical of this wine until last night when I had it sitting down in a dinner-type situation. By the way, Tony, your food was fabulous last night. The smoked chicken and the little phyllo triangles with the smoked tomato aioli, fantastic. And hey, you can't do any better than lamb chops with Tempranillo-based wines. Fantastic. And then the dessert she put out, that white chocolate pot au feu, was fantastic with the tokais. All right, enough about the food. We're here for the wine, right, folks? The Pintia, really dark, really deep, really intense. Just like all these wines, you get that from farming with low yields. And 100% Tempranillo, unlike the wines from Vega, Sicilia, which are blends, just like the Allion, which both of those have their own separate wineries today. Allion started out as a second wine or a third wine from Vega, and today, last night, that was the wine of the night for many people. The Allion, the most forward, the most drinkable. As I mentioned, the Pintia, just incredibly concentrated, rich. At the end of the night, when I was sitting on my desk, you really noticed this wine had opened up fully, and very complex notes of toasty woods, smoke, sweet tobacco spice, black trumpet mushrooms, incense laced with blackberry and kirsch-like fruit, incredible intensity and tannins, but again, starting to smooth out after it was open for about 5 hours. Really nice, most excellent, as were all the wines last night. If you look at my scores, these are top-level wines. All of them were great, and like I said, a lot of people like the Allion the best. This wine had aromas of scorched earth, and then really somewhat more forward than the other ones. Mocha, espresso, dark cherry, cocoa spice in there, and just the most appealing and most drinkable young. As the Valbuena, I think, also outshined the Unico last night in some people's mind because of its more open and appealing style today. This wine is kept for 5 years. The Unico is kept for 10 years. We showed the 1996 Unico last night, which actually the 2000 is the current release, so one with even a few more years of bottle age. The main difference between these two wines, other than the bottle age, is a selection. The top grapes go into Unico, and then the Valbuena also gets, you know, top-level grapes. It's a blend of Merlot and Malbec, whereas the Unico is Cabernet and Tempranillo, to the tune of about 80% Tempranillo and 20% those other varietals that I mentioned. All right, well, my wine of the night was the Unico. This wine showed incredible depth, concentration, and wonderful balance for a wine that is 14 years old now, still had great freshness, and I can see why a lot of the group maybe didn't pick this as the best. It didn't have a lot of forward fruit like the other wines did. Hey, we're not finished yet, man. We had some dessert wines. Some of the greatest dessert wines in the world come from a country called Hungary and an area called Tokai. Tokai is a term that's kind of been misused in the wine world. Well, not misused, but it's been used for several different things, so it's confused people. First, they used to put it in front of Pinot Gris in Alsace. They used to call Tokai Pinot Gris, and then they used to use it as a grape varietal in Italy, Tokai Friulano. Well, today, neither one of those countries can use the term Tokai. This term is unique to an area in Hungary as far as wine goes in the European community. So thank you guys very much for coming to terms with this. You were confusing the hell out of some people. But Tokai is made with a ferment grape, and the late harvest Tokai that we started with had some lovely peach and apricot fruit to it, but not a lot of that honey character. That's what you get from botryticized grapes, grapes that are rotted. All right, the second wine, the 5 Petognos, this wine had some of those rotted wines. Petogno is the name of a sack. That's how they measure the amount of these dried, rotted grapes that go into just the late harvest dried grapes. So the 5 Petognos being very rich, you're starting to get some of that lovely honey character that you get in wines like Sauternes. They're made the same way. Well, a fantastic evening last night. The 2 dessert wines, outstanding. Dessert was great. Thanks very much, honey. Another great meal in the store. All right, well, that's what I had to drink yesterday, folks. I'm your host, Andrew Lampazone, signing off for the Wine Watch, saying remember, always drink the good stuff first.